What I think is that the more people who we have out there who are employed, the more employers will see people at the grocery store and Costco and these other places and see it working, and that is what will change their attitude, is their observation in the larger community. I don't have a good answer of how you do it with a given employer. I just don't. Part of it is to market yourself. So if you're really good in relationships, R before INT, guys. INT, yeah, this is a real important one. So if you are in job placement kind of role of helping people find jobs, keep this in mind. Relationships before issues and tasks. Your relationship with that employer is probably the key determinant as to whether they're going to hire the person more than the person. I absolutely believe that. If they have a level of trust in you, and then what you tell them they're going to believe. So if you are a good marketer and you know how to give people the hook, like a good used car salesman, that's what you really got to be. And sometimes people in your position need training on how to market, because you're a marketer if you're trying to find people's jobs. And I wouldn't expect that anyone in your position would just know it intuitively. There are people that get degrees in this stuff, like graduate degrees. So what you may want to do is get some books and read on how to market. Go online and do a Google search of how we can help people with developmental disabilities gain employment. The more information you can get, I think the more it will help. So find ways to motivate, and I suggested that probably one of the best ways to motivate, what was my answer on that? Who remembers? Bond, that's right. Right, when you bond with people, they're less likely to behave in a way to disappoint you. Now this is interesting. This is the if. You do not, there are few, maybe no, limitations with respect to having people volunteer. Employment is very different. There are a series of ifs associated with employment. An individual can be employed if they desire to be employed. In other words, you have to know you're being employed. It's a contractual relationship, and you have to be willing to be employed. I do not, and you need informed consent. Do you all follow that? In other words, the person needs to understand that I'm doing something for the benefit of an employer and I'm getting paid for it because it's a contractual relationship. I do not need informed consent for people to volunteer. Please make sure you get this. I do not need informed consent for people to volunteer. If that were the case, people with significant intellectual limitations would be prohibited from engaging in any kind of volunteerism. So if I have a group of people cutting out construction paper and around Thanksgiving and taking stamps of turkeys and pilgrims and putting it on this little piece of construction paper, which is going to be a bookmark, and they are making bookmarks that we're going to give to the local library that they can hand out to people who check out books, as a courtesy kind of thing. Does the person have to understand what a library is? Do they have to understand how that bookmark is going to be used? No, they don't have to understand that. They enjoy taking the paper, cutting it out, and putting all the stamps on the paper. So volunteerism does not require informed consent. Thank goodness, because we would have a very large number of people who would never be allowed to go to the animal shelter and socialize the animals because they didn't understand that they were volunteering. Employment, you have to have guardian approval or conservator approval. You just can't get somebody a job to be employed if they are adjudicated incompetent. I don't need guardian approval for volunteering. I don't have to go to the guardian. Is it okay if your son cuts out little pieces of construction paper and puts marks on them? There may be some unusual kind of volunteer activity that I might need a guardian approval, but generally, I don't need guardian approval to engage in volunteer activities. If I'm going to be making holiday ornaments, or we're making greeting cards that we're going to give to Meals on Wheels, great volunteer activity, to give to elderly people who have no one to acknowledge their birthdays or the holidays. I don't have to call up a conservator and say, can your son or daughter make greeting cards? But if I were starting them in a micro-industry, and I'm going to show you pictures of people who have businesses that make greeting cards, and I'm going to help set them up in business, and they're conserved, I would need that conservator or guardian's approval to set them up in a cottage-type industry. The regulations have to allow it. What's really interesting, in many states, you cannot use waiver dollars to hire job coaches. So how waiver dollars are used is very influenced by state guidelines. And so the regulations must allow the use of dollars, wherever your dollars come from, to support people in an employment setting. That's seldom an issue with volunteering. I mean, it's just not. There has to be sufficient resources available. In other words, for someone to be employed, there has to be an employment opportunity. Volunteerism has no limit. I mean, golly, I mean, you can do anything. I mean, I can go to the public library and say, hey, you have all these books coming back with the plastic covers on the books, and they got jelly all over them, and they're filthy. Can we have 3 folks come over every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and get a stack of these books? We're going to be in the back of the library, and I'm going to have one person spray them with a cleaner, and the other person's going to wipe them off, and the other person's going to put them in the box. So you always can create an unlimited number of volunteer activities. You said, okay, we're going to go to the police department every Friday, and we're going to wash 2 vehicles at the police department. I mean, the number of volunteer activities are limitless because they're not predetermined. Employment is different unless you're starting your own business. It is a tragedy when these obstacles cannot be overcome. I mean, that's the bottom line for employment, because there's a number of ifs. Entitlement. And this one's pretty provocative, right? In terms of what it implies, a concept meant to encapsulate the social or economic beliefs that our government should provide access to goods or services. And California probably has more entitlement programs than most states. You have one entitlement program that destroys lives that is so misused. I mean, I just hate it. What is it called? HHS or something like that? It's where these housekeepers come into people's homes and clean their homes. You know, all know what I'm talking about? Can you help me? And what is it called? IHSS. Oh my gosh. Hardly any other state does it. Just destroys people's lives. IHHS is an extremely valuable service for people who truly need it. It can be a godsend, but it has destroyed people who are fully capable of cleaning their homes and taking care of their places, and they pretend stupidity, and these people come in, commonly friends, who don't do anything, and they just pay them off. They get the money. And hey, many of these IHS, I'm not making this up, where the individual themselves, the support recipient, takes half the money, and the person who doesn't do anything takes the other half. And I'm not going to put Enrique in the position of saying, am I right? But he will tell you, it's a very and someday it's going to blow up in the face of California. It is going to blow up because it's a horrible entitlement program that is so misused. There's no guidelines on this thing. There's no guardrails on it. It's a nutty program. And it's costing you billions of dollars in this state. You're paying for it. Yeah. So some of these entitlement things are nuts, in my opinion. The connotation of the phrase often implies that the recipients of government entitlements are individuals that do not deserve to receive such benefits or entitlements. And that is right. Some of these entitlements, I don't know why people get them. I mean, I can't figure it out. It undermines the quality of life. It's my right. I love this one, right? I don't have to work. It's my right. I choose not to work, and you have to support me in just doing my thing. I come to this day program to listen to music. You see these people come and they have headphones on. They listen to music all day. I come here to watch TV, my favorite shows, As the World Turns. Is that still on TV? I come here to sleep. People come in, they put their head down all day and they sleep. I come here to drink coffee, play games, or whatever. Do you agree? You understand that this is very prevalent, and the system pays for it. Everybody knows it's happening. Every single one of those people, without exception, has a service coordinator. They know exactly what's going on there. The supervisors know what's going on, and we pay for it. Okay, these are provocative too. A vagrant. A person wandering from one place to another, having no permanent employment. That's not my definition. That's like right out of the dictionary. Wouldn't it apply to the people we support? But we tend not to do that, right? A slacker, somebody who avoids doing something, especially work. A freeloader. Now, why am I bringing this up? Because I want the people who we support to look good in the eyes of others. I don't want them to look like slackers and freeloaders and vagrants, but that's how some of them come across. And it's not their fault. We set up a system that causes them to look that way. So what's your opinion? Here are the facts. This is one of my favorite ones, okay? He's 27 years old. I'm going to let you think through this one. He's capable of being employed. Only employment available is piece rate, will not earn minimum wage. And it's a very repetitive task, like in a factory, assembly line. Refuses to take those type of jobs. Decides to live on welfare. Has no disability. Okay, would you take a blank piece of paper in front of you, please? And in about one sentence, I would like for you to please give me your opinion about that person. I'm going to back it up so you can see it. Give me your opinion about that person. And then I'm going to come around and I want you to give me your piece of paper. I won't say anything on who it is, but I'm going to take them and I'm going to read some of them out loud, and then I'm going to ask you the next question. And if some of you don't write an opinion, we'll just wait until you give me your opinion. You can't tell me you don't. If you don't have an opinion, you realize you're in trouble. I mean, you got to have an opinion, for Pete's sake. It's not a right or wrong answer. Just have an opinion. What's your opinion? And I'll take these as you got them, okay? Thank you. Good man. He got it to me quickly. Time is my enemy. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Let's see what we got. This person needs to become an adult and start working, even jobs that he may hate. Good. I agree. This makes me angry. Because there is nothing wrong with him, and my taxes are being used to take care of him. I hate the welfare system. Okay. I believe that person may feel entitled and lazy, may have priorities wrong. That's good. One word, entitled. Someone who may be entitled, lazy. That person is a slacker. He's taken advantage of the system. Good. Unfair. They should cut his services. No drugs. Someone who was never held accountable. He shouldn't be on welfare. He is very capable. You know where this is going to go, don't you? You know what's going to come up next? I don't mean here, but there. He should be working. He is feeling entitled and should work if he gets a real job opportunity. Individuals would love to have that going for them. My opinion is that this person maybe needs more confidence and guidance on the importance of working. Boy, from some social worker in the room, I mean, obviously. That he thinks he is better than what the job can offer, but does not have the proper skills. And finally, lazy and unmotivated. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Get out your paper, guys. Okay. Here are the facts. He's 27 years old, capable of being employed. Only employment available is piece rate, will not earn minimum wage, repetitive tasks. Refuses to take those types of jobs. Decides to live on welfare. Would you please write down your opinion?
Yeah.
Come on, I'm going to collect the papers again. I want to know what your opinion is.
They have an opportunity to work piecemeal.
It's the exact same word for word as the first one, except for the last line. So could you please write down your opinion? I'm not making any of this up. This is all absolutely true. I mean, and you got to have an opinion. You get no free break because you have a disability. I have no guilt. Zero. Okay? If he is capable of making the decision to want to be put on welfare, he is capable of getting a job. Hey, that's good. That's a winner. I like that one. That's good. Look for services to help find employment that meets his needs. Should work. Still feel they should work to the best of their ability. Will make them feel better about themselves. Good. Help take the tax burden off the rest of us. You got that right. Should be working. Good. He is still very capable of finding work. He still needs to become an adult. Take the jobs that he may want. He needs someone to be his cheerleader. Well, that's true. Probably both people. I'll buy that one from the same social worker. And needs guidance. Needs proper support and staff. He must go to Kern Regional Center. It might be that he doesn't understand that his working could better him in the long run. Well, that's good. Nobody gave him the proper skills to do the job he wanted. Well, I don't know. I don't know how we come to that conclusion, but maybe. Should cut services. Boy, they're really tough on that one. He should be working. Okay, so I did this as just an interesting exercise. And my position is, all things being equal, the disability in and of itself should be irrelevant. Okay, now there may be extenuating circumstances and factors, and then if they exist, they need to be up there in order for us to make a decision. But you don't get a break. That's just it. No break, because you're an adult. Okay, here's another one. This is really interesting, too. Some of these, when I come up with them, I commonly come up with these slides while I'm flying, and I always, some of you know, I've carried this thing around with me for, 40 of my 55 years. I'm taking notes all the time, constantly taking notes. And some of these notes are about some of you in this room. So if you have a sense of concern that they're going to get published, they probably will be, okay? I've taken a lot of... Direct support professionals work very hard, exerting both significant physical and mental effort. Fair enough? We have, especially in California, a very large number of direct support professionals that are trying to survive. A huge percentage of them that are single head of household with 2 or more children working 2 full-time jobs. Okay. Now I want you to keep this in perspective, and you should already have a sense of where I'm going with this. How must these staff feel being in the lives of individuals who are not willing to work and be responsible adults? I'm coming into this place trying to survive in my own life and doing everything I can to do it. And I come to an agency that embraces the concept of this individual doing nothing, employed by an organization that fails to embrace and promote the value of work for those supported. To hear parents and guardians proclaim that their family members should not work. we need to put ourselves in the position of some of these staff of what must they be thinking. It gets worse than that. I'll show you here in a moment. Irritated and frustrated. If I were them, those are the adjectives I would come up with. And there's profound inequality. I work 2 jobs that are psychologically and physically demanding while trying to raise 2 children as a single head of household on wages that qualify me for a variety of public financial assistance. I struggle to pay my rent for a tiny 2-bedroom apartment with torn screens and a leaky roof. I come to work in a home as a direct support professional, supporting 3 adults with developmental disabilities capable of working with support, but don't. I'm told it's their right. Their home is 3,000 square feet on a 3/4 acre of highly landscaped property. The bedrooms are spacious with attached bathrooms. There is a large living room and great room. Meal preparation takes place in a kitchen with stainless steel appliances and side-by-side refrigerator, freezer with ice maker, and a 6-foot dining island. How would you feel? How would you feel? I mean, there's something inside of me that just would tell me, you know, I'm being mistreated. This is just not right. And by the way, who is paying for that? The very staff who's irritated and upset. We take their tax money. And by the way, the people who live in the home are not even expected to clean their own toilet. They have staff on 3rd shift do it. I'm not making this up. Remember, we had 3 categories of work. They're not even expected to do meal preparation. Staff are doing the oatmeal at 5:30 in the morning before people get up. How are these staff supposed to feel? Who's responsible? Can I show you who's responsible? An unintended consequence of person-centered planning is that day program participants choose their preferred activity, which may not be to work. Staff may proclaim, but we gave them a choice. Don't work or work. That can't be the option. It's what job do you want? Not working should seldom be an option. The first responsibility of adult day services is to provide opportunities for work. And there are a few excuses. Now, this is where it gets interesting. There are 4 categories where people do not have to work. Got it? I'm going to give you the 4 categories. So if you were thinking that everybody has to work, that's not true. I don't believe that is the case. The first category is age. I believe that children should not have to work. Unfortunately, in some countries, people are so impoverished that children have to work in order to help sustain their families. Unfortunate and tragic. I believe that when people are of retirement age, they should have the option not to work. I have elected not to exercise my option, but I believe they should have it. Second category, people who are independently wealthy should not have to work. When Bill Gates announced his retirement from Microsoft at the age of 55, did you hear people proclaim, that lazy bum, why doesn't he get back to work? Who cares? And you know what's interesting? Bill Gates, at his retirement party, said, I will be working harder the rest of my life as chairman of the Gates Foundation than I ever did as CEO at Microsoft. He still continued to work, but not employed. Volunteering, right? Third category, people should not have to work if they have acute, and that's the key point, acute, not chronic, acute medical issues. You just had a heart transplant, good, you get 60 days off, come back to work. My wife had breast cancer. She's doing fine. When she had it, she was going to radiation almost every day. She'd go to radiation in the morning, she'd go to work in the afternoon. I have friends who have very significant prostate cancer. Guess what? They go to work. I mean, if you got an acute issue like COVID or you have a contagious thing, that's a different issue. But we're not giving people, you don't get out of this because you have a significant seizure disorder that are uncontrolled seizures. That's merely an indication of where you're going to work and what kind of work you're going to do. It has nothing to do with whether you work. The fact that you receive all nourishment by tube is irrelevant. You work. There are scores of people in this country of normal intelligence because of cancer of the throat and everything else that receive nourishment by tube, and they work, they're employed. Using a wheelchair has nothing to do with whether you work. And number 4, everybody has a right to be a beach bum. You want to come with me down to the Santa Monica Pier? There are guys down there, 20 years old, 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, 60 years old, 70 years old, who haven't engaged in a lick of work their entire life. They walk around with a surfboard under their arm. Their hair is bleached from the sun. They got a tan. You know, they made a decision that they don't want to wear a hard hat or a tool belt. They made a decision they don't want to wear a 3-piece suit with a tie and carry a briefcase. They spend their days hanging down on the beach, drinking beer, hanging out with their buddies, selling grass to make a few bucks. And you know what? It's an informed consent decision. They truly understand how the rest of society sees them, and they don't give a plug. And they are not asking me to support them. Here is my response about these guys. Go for it. Absolutely. That's not the people who we support. Most of them don't have informed consent. They don't understand how it's undermining the quality of their life. And they're asking me to support them. That's the difference. The big W, work. That's another really good gift, isn't it? Work is the antidote. Without work, work is the antidote to loneliness. Without work, all life goes rotten. Isn't that a great phrase? But when work is soulless, life stifles and dies. And here's this prepackaged thing that still exists in many places. I mean, we've created this in many states. You have like intense behavioral day support programs. Did you know that the things actually exist? Are you aware? Is everybody aware of that? Okay. Well, this current system, what you do is you take a whole bunch of people who engage in intense self-injurious behavior, property destruction, and aggression toward others. You get about 20 to 25 of them, put them all in the same building, and good things will happen. No, and the state pays for it. And they give enhanced rates. It's called enhanced behavioral programs. Put them all with their own kind. That's where they want to be. Common sense would tell you you just do the opposite. When you have that kind of conduct, you shouldn't be with anybody else. Why would you and they do the same thing in residential. They have EBHs, right? Enhanced behavioral homes. I'm not making this up. They get a bunch of people who eat their tennis shoes and go from one room to another and don't use doors. They put them all in the same home and think something good is going to happen. I don't know of any other state that does this. I'm serious. Why California came up? Who's thinking this way? It doesn't even make any sense. These people need to have a home of their own. They shouldn't live with anybody other than Till of the Hun or something, you know? And so these prepackaged things, right? Day hab programs, pre-vocational programs, work enclaves, all need to be eliminated. And you take each person and you decide what is in their best interest and what is their preferred future, and you help them with it, because there will be no place. So we seem to do a much better job of finding people for places and places for people, as I said before. Tailored day services. Let's look at some of these. I need to take a swag of this stuff. It's a program designed to support an individual's life choices and goals. Can you raise your hand if your agency is currently doing these tailored day services? I had 3 agencies here. You guys are? You same agency? Okay. And the thing that's really interesting about tailored day services, for the most part, we tend to select people who are the most capable with those services. And they tend to be one-on-one. Am I getting it basically right? And they tend to be limited in the number of hours a week that somebody can receive. Who would benefit the most? The people who are the most involved, the people that are most medically fragile. I'm saying we give the benefits to those people who are deserving of those benefits. And again, it's not your fault. It's just how that system works out. I would turn it on its head. So Tailored Day Services is a program designed to support individuals' life choices and goals. Customized service may include the following activities, which I don't know what that means, community integration. What kind of activity is that? You know, it sounds like exploring the community. We're going to explore the community, right? Development of opportunities for employment, that's good. Pursuit of post-secondary education and volunteer activities, which is all good. TDS offers support options that fall outside the traditional package services. That's the point, which is good. See, I think we need this, in essence, for every single person. That's what we should be doing for everyone. What do you want to do? What is the kind of employment that you want? Or do you want to go to a junior college or a technical school and then get employed? Why don't we just take what we already know works and just do it for everybody? We can figure this out financially. I know we can. Think how much money we would be saving on property costs across the whole system. How many buildings is the current waiver system paying for? How much property insurance are we paying on all those buildings? How much utilities are we spending on those buildings? All of those costs could be eliminated, and you take all that money and put it into staff for tailored day services. Does that make sense to everybody? I mean, it takes tremendous leadership to make that happen. But we have a maldistribution of resources. We have the money, it's just going to the wrong things. It's sort of like people were concerned about closing the state-operated developmental centers because it was going to cost so much money. But the point is, it costs more per person to be in a developmental center than what we're currently spending in a community setting. We have a maldistribution of resource. Further, TDS tends to be more limited in the number of hours funded per week than for traditional services. And here's an important point. There is no limitation to the number of hours that somebody can be engaged in tailored day services. You're going to disagree with me, but I know I'm right. There is no limitation on a weekly basis of the number of hours somebody can participate in tailored day services. There's a limitation in the number of hours that you can be reimbursed. Now, what happens, unfortunately, is most provider agencies have made a decision to limit the number of hours the person participates based upon the number of hours they're reimbursed. You have many people who can be engaged in their tailored day supports without benefit of support. I will guarantee you they can do the job without somebody standing over them. But what we tend to do is we define it in terms of the number of hours that we're reimbursed for staff versus saying is, let's expand that and you can go ahead and do these things if you don't need paid support to do it. Does that make sense? We have a lot of people who will fit that, so we should be able to expand it. Commonly, this model allows an individual to direct their own services. Ideally, TDS should provide a support and training that allows consumers, this is not my wording, I wouldn't use it, to develop the necessary skills to thrive through obtaining higher education or employment. ICANN is also a name of an agency, by the way. You have ICANN agencies here? Does that ring a bell with anybody? Yeah, it's the name of a provider in California. Here are the 5 elements of day support. These are the 5 things we want to happen in day support. People need to be productive, going back to it must be meaningful. If the person you had doing it wasn't doing it, you'd have to hire somebody to do it. Has to be productive. Number 2, we want people to be remunerated. We want people to make money. Now, just because I don't know how to make that happen, I'm not changing the 5 elements of what we need to do. This is what we need to do. I'm not changing the rules because I can't meet them. Number 3, oh, by the way, money. Oh, this is where we're going to get into ABLE, by the way. Money is a pathway to emancipation. Wealthy people, make it, save it, and keep it. Isn't it interesting that wealthy people have figured out how to put their money on foreign islands and to avoid taxes in this country? Right? They come up with all this stuff and they hire people to put their money in ways that they don't get taxed anymore. Well, guess what? We finally came up with a system to do that for people with disabilities, and that's ABLE. We'll take a look at ABLE here. Support people with disabilities on their path toward emancipation. Here are some ABLE facts. Would you raise your hand if you have anybody you support who has an ABLE account? You have somebody? Only one of you? See, now that right there is telling, right? I mean, they may not have ABLE accounts because they don't understand it or how to use them or what they are, and we need to get more. Yeah, well, it can be. I mean, there's people who are very knowledgeable, can help people set those things up. I mean, they're available. Okay, so let's take a look at ABLE, because it's really, ABLE is very similar to the tax-deferred accounts that first came into being through the federal government that allow parents to set up accounts to send their children to college. You know those? Are you familiar with those accounts? People have them in every state. all of my grandchildren, my daughters and son-in-laws, set up those accounts for my grandchildren so that by the time they're ready to go to college, they thought there would be enough money, but when they ended up, there's never enough money. So anyways, tax advantage savings accounts for individuals and their families. ABLE is an acronym. I want you to be familiar with it if you're not. Stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. And it is dynamic in that, and synergistic in that they change the rules and the rules become more flexible and people now can save more money than they could just a few years ago. They're always improving the system. The beneficiary of the account is the account holder. In other words, the money in the account has to be in the name of the person who has the disability. Income earned by the accounts will not be taxed. You notice the income earned. So there's a multitude of ways you can have that money invested, but the earnings that you get are not taxed if they are applied to qualifying disability expenses, which can be huge because you can see, I'll show you in a minute how much money people can put in these accounts, and it's tax-free in terms of the earnings in the account. Contributions to the account may be made by any person. So the contributions are not restricted to be made by the person who has a disability. Families could put money in, a grandparent could put money in the account. So it could be used tax-free for those things that I'm going to share with you in a moment. Contributions are made using post-tax dollars, which means that the money you put in is taxed. They're not exempt from tax, so it's post-tax dollars, and are not tax deductible. The earnings on the money are not taxable. The money that goes in is taxable. Now, you with me so far?
Kids.
Yeah. For example, California contributions are limited to $14,000 a year. That's quite a bit of money. I mean, most people don't save $14,000, my guess is. A lot of people don't save $14,000 a year. The accounts are modeled after the 529 college savings plans that I just shared with you a moment ago. ABLE accounts allow the individual with a disability to spend their money on qualifying disabled expenses, quote, close quote. The law defines qualifying disabled expenses as any, and that's really an operative word, expense needed for living with a disability. So there's almost no limitation. Gambling, probably ruled out, okay? This includes education, housing, transportation, employment training and support, healthcare expenses, and more. ABLE accounts provide more choice and control of disabled beneficiaries and their families than special needs or pooled trust, and cost less to set up. So though they may be complicated, they're saying it's easier than setting up a trust. Is that true? I don't know, but that's what they say. Eligibility. To be eligible, the participants must be an individual with significant disabilities, including mental health conditions, that develop before the age of 26. And that's pretty flexible too. I mean, that's good. Individuals who meet this criteria and receive SSI or SSD are automatically eligible for ABLE accounts without any kind of assessment or test. So if you're getting SSI, you're automatically eligible. Those not receiving them must meet SSI criteria for significant functional limitations. Benefits. ABLE allows the beneficiary to exclude certain assets. I know there's an error there. From the federal means-tested programs. So I was talking to Enrique, because I'm trying to get a feel in California. So what this allows you to do is to protect your entitlement. And it is not in jeopardy by virtue of how much you have in savings. Does that make sense? In other words, I can have $100,000 in savings and my entitlements are not impaired. Your income can impair your entitlements. Income is different than savings. Does that make sense? So somebody who may have $90,000 in an ABLE account can continue to receive SSI, Medi-Cal, or whatever if they stay under the threshold of income that would impair their entitlement. I mean, so parents who have a concern about how much their sons and daughters may earn, impairing an entitlement, have some validity to that concern. able does not remove that concern, if that makes sense. If I'm not saying it well, you're more than welcome to bail me out and reward it, but that's the best I can say it. Am I saying that okay, would you say? Okay. Savings held in an enable account up to a $100,000 limit. That was just recently increased, which to $100,000, which are really good, are not counted against the $2,000 limit. So we're talking about in terms of this is an asset issue. Savings is an asset. The $2,000 limit on personal assets for individuals to qualify for SSI and other public benefits. In essence, the ABLE Act has increased the cap for accountable assets from $2,000 to $100,000 for disabled individuals seeking eligibility for SSI. So now people no longer need to be impoverished in order to receive the entitlement, because your assets will determine in part whether you're impoverished. I mean, if you have $90,000 in savings, it's hard to make a claim that you're impoverished, right? Okay, so we have remuneration. We have two. Next, inclusion. It's a requirement. Defined as relationships, employment and volunteer interactions with the same people in the same location are more likely to lead to valued relationships. Number 4, enjoyment. We want people to like their work. If I had my druthers, that's what I think is important. I love my work. However, if we cannot support somebody, I would say to you, since you help people find jobs, and they can't find a job that they like, or they're in it and they find they don't like it and there's another option, here's my response, if you want to write it down. Bite the bullet. You got it? And that's the position I'm really urging you to take. That's a position of respect. Bite the bullet. We all have to do things that we don't like. I'm sorry. I don't expect a 4-year-old to bite the bullet. And when we don't expect people to do these things, it's infantilization. And that's the best way I could describe it. Ideally, our employment should be enjoyable, providing a sense of satisfaction. If not, responsible adults take whatever employment is available. Do you agree with that? So how do we get the system to shift to tell people, hey, I'm sorry, you don't like it. When you find another job, or we can get you another job, then you quit this one. You just can't go unemployed. It's not an option. Now, by the way, people may not follow our direction. The guy may say, well, I don't care, I'm still going to quit. There's people who don't have a disability who just say, well, I'm just going to go on welfare. I'll sleep in my brother's house. That has nothing to do with what you say. It has to do with what they do. We have to take a position of what we believe in. What does your agency believe in? And number 5 is learning. Whenever possible, I really want people to benefit, grow, develop, and gain independence in their life through the employment that they have. And I'm going to show you my pie chart here. I don't know what yours looks like. And I had mentioned earlier that the vast majority of everything that I know is a result of my employment. The vast majority of all my relationships is a result of my employment. What does your pie graph look like? So if I never had work in my life, my gosh, look at how it would impact my life in terms of fewer relationships and less knowledge and not the same skill level and competency. So let's look at this media thing and see how we can translate it. There are a number, and Enrique can tell you, in the Los Angeles area, there are several day support programs that are actor, theater-based kinds of programs. They're operated by unemployed actors, and they have these studios with millions of dollars worth of equipment, and they are funded through the regional centers, like Westside has a number of people who go to them, Landerman has some folks that go to them, and people go to these acting classes. That's basically what they are. That's part of their day program. Okay, so I go to coach there, and I'm helping them transition. And I say, I said, anybody employed? Anybody getting the job? I have no problem with you being there, but why don't you work a second shift out there and earn some money, okay? And if you're not going to work, then how can we use this day program in a meaningful way? So what do? We now have the folks going to that drama program, putting on skits at preschool programs for little kids, teaching them to look both ways before they cross the street, putting on skits about the importance of not talking to strangers. So now we're taking their skills and they're developing their skills by exercising them. We have them go to memory care units and nursing homes, putting on little plays and skits for people in the memory care unit. Now, why are we selecting preschool programs in a memory care unit? Somebody want to tell me why?
They won't judge our folks.
Pardon me?
They won't judge our folks.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. Here, I'm going to use one word that explains it. I don't want them to be exploited. You know, my oldest granddaughter, who's now 21, and I guess that was my alarm. Is that we there? Yeah, who's now 21. When Isabel was 3 or 4, we'd put a CD. We used to have these things called CDs where you write it down. And we didn't, no one knows what a CD is. I also had an 8-track tape machine too. You really don't know what that is, right, Dale? Yeah. So, and we'd play Annie. And we'd be sitting in the living room, and here is Isabel singing Annie. She could no more sing than my right foot. And what would we do? Isabel, that's so good, honey. That's so good. That's so good. Oh, you're such a good singer. Why? Because she was 3. She was 4. We can't do that with the people we support. You don't praise something that's not bad. That's infantilization. So you put them in these environments where it's truly appreciated. When these folks clap and they say it's wonderful, it's because they truly believe it is. You do understand I can't get many people to agree with this concept. I mean, many people think, well, what's the difference? They need to be respected and they need to go out there and do that for everyone. By the way, I am that person. I am the person with the disability. Don't put me up in front of all these people and have them act like they think that I am a good actor. Don't do that to me. I don't want to be treated that way. And that's all I can do. Let me just go through this real quick and we'll take a break. Gardening. Some of these day programs have horticultural programs. No programs. Eliminate all your programs. So what are we going to do? We're going to get a community garden plot. And we're going to grow tomatoes and other vegetables. And what are we going to do with them? We're going to give them to churches to give out to people who are food insecure, or give them to a food pantry. Why do I like the garden plot? Because the people who have the plot on the left and people who have the plot on the right have had the same plot for years. They tend to come on the same days at the same time. You come at the same days at the same time, interaction with the same people. You're not forming relationships with them. Ceramics. It's not a matter of ceramic classes. Stop with the classes. No classes, please. No classes. I want people to do ceramics. Do I want them to learn ceramics? Ceramics is fine. I have no problems with it. What are you going to do with them? You can put them on, what do you call that thing? Itsy bitsy something? I don't know. Etsy something like that. Yeah. If it's good enough to sell, no, I'm not making this up. They got itsy bitsy something out there. If it's good enough to sell, then you have them make ceramics and sell them and earn some money. You can do it as a fundraiser. Give money to the Cancer Society. If it's not worthy of selling, then you can do ceramics and give them to elderly people in a nursing home to decorate their room. I mean, all of this stuff, it's how are you going to use it? Now, I am still facility-based. Do I want people in that facility-based program? No. But if I can't figure out how to get them out, if Mohammed can go to the mountain, take the mountain to Mohammed. I want to get them to have a meaningful day. Exercise. No more exercise programs. Stop with the programs. You want to exercise? We're going to adopt the park. Pick up the trash. In Los Angeles, they have this wonderful thing called Heal the Bay. People volunteer to clean up the trash along the shore. It's a great program. I use that for people who have autism, who strip their clothes off. I have the guy heal the bay way down there where no one can see him. The point is you got to find the right location. You have somebody who screams and hollers and uses vulgarity. The perfect volunteer location is a mausoleum, and you have them go in there and clean the brass plaques on the mausoleum, because when he starts screaming and hollering, the people in there, they won't complain. I promise you, okay? And by the way, the list goes on and on. Art, maybe, you know what one cool one is? I was in a day support, and we're going to break here in a minute. Is the program has a relationship with a local pediatrics hospital. And every month they give the day program 1 or 2 boxes of ceiling acoustical tiles. I thought, what in the world are they? And they have the folks in the day program take the acoustical tiles. The staff make various designs and so forth on it. And the folks in the day program take watercolors and felt tip markers and fill them out, rainbows and all this stuff. And the hospital takes the acoustical tiles and puts them above the beds in the rooms of the kids who lay in bed for an extended period of time and change what's on the ceiling. Dang, that's good. Rather than people sitting there doing a bunch of crap with paper, scribbling back and forth. Okay, animals. That one there, you'll see day programs where they'll do dog walking services, depending where they're located, and people will pay them for dog walking. Some day programs will have a service where people can bring in their birds in small aquariums when they go on vacation. They'll take care of the birds at the day program, or if they have gerbils and other kind of animals, they bring them in. ... Okay.